Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Joshana here to talk about some friggin' books. I'm playing around with the scenery at the back, I don't know, like my angle where I'm filming and stuff because I got my 5th bookcase. Woo woo! Very excited. A goal I have been reaching for a couple of years. Woohoo! And I am once again coming to you quite casually today because, I don't know, I'm feeling very I don't want to say tired today because I'm not necessarily tired. I'm just real chill. I'm on chill mode. One of these books was completed in January, and then 2 of them were completed in the beginning of February, and one was a very recent DNF. Bummer times. But the 3 that I did complete were all 3.75 and above. So that's good. Yay. And the DNF, well, I'll get into it. It wasn't like terrible. I'll explain, obviously. And I'll just start with that one, the DNF. It is a huge bummer because this was one of my 5-star predictions and one of my most anticipated, if not the most, it was like top 3 most anticipated releases for 2022. And I received an e-arc from NetGalley, and I was super jazzed. The book in question, though, is Siren Queen by Nevo. I know. It's very sad. Very, very sad. The premise of this one is adult historical fabulism or magical realism fantasy, and I will mostly just kind of read. I've kind of pieced together the synopsis because y'all know I'm terrible at synopses. We have our main character who is a Chinese-American girl, Luli Wei. She is beautiful, talented, and desperate to become a star in pre-code Hollywood. And she would rather play a monster than play a maid, or the other roles that are typically given to Asian girls in this Hollywood. But in Luli's world, the worst monsters in Hollywood are not the ones on screen. The studios want to own everything from her face to her name to the women she loves. And they run on a system of bargains made in blood with ancient magic, powered by the endless sacrifice of unlucky starlets like her. For those who do survive to earn their fame, success comes at a steep price. So you all know I loved The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo, which came out last year, which had the same writing style. And it is the same writing style as Nevo's novellas, what is the singing cycle? Or I've read them and I really like them. When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, The Empress of Salt and Fortune, and there's another one coming out this year that I still plan to read because it works for me in those. In the novellas, they are very folk tale-esque. It just really works. That writing style really works in that type of story. And in The Chosen and the Beautiful, I think that it worked for me in that because it had the grounding of the story of The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby, all the plot points that happen, the main plot points in The Great Gatsby are in The Chosen and the Beautiful. You are just in a different character's perspective, and there definitely are those moments of just very ethereal, whimsical, whatever writing style, but again, it has the grounding of the plot of The Great Gatsby, so I think that is why it worked for me in The Chosen and the Beautiful. Whereas this is its own story, and I do not think it was poorly written. Like I said, it's the same writing style. It's just in this, it didn't work for me. It just didn't. I wasn't hating it. I was not at all hating this. I could have finished it, but I just was feeling like I'm gonna end up not loving this. It's when it's more like the storytelling, not just like the sentences or the metaphors we're using are whimsical and stuff, but like the actual storytelling, the narrative, how it's all pieced together starts to feel very like I'm in a dream world where it doesn't necessarily work for me personally. Again, it's not a bad device to use as a writer. It can work for a lot of people. And I've said before that I think it's probably partially a cultural thing where if you grew up in a culture of kind of more folk tales and that kind of storytelling, you probably would feel very comfortable with this. I think for me, it's just not something my brain like is used to, my brain can follow. My brain is dumb. It's just like, what? You guys are being weird. I don't know why. And I don't care anymore. But it's also very dark. This is very dark. I will say that. So yeah, disappointing for me. I still think a lot of people will really enjoy this. If you don't need to feel a little bit more grounded in your fantasy, and you can kind of get with this type of writing style that's a little bit more ethereal and fever dreamy, then try this book, because it's very interesting. Like the plot and the premise, very interesting. So I don't know. I think a lot of people will enjoy this. I just was kind of like, so I quit. But going back to January, and one of the books I did complete and enjoy, book 2 of the Rhaeria Revelations, Rise of Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. This book is heavier than the first one, but I love these trade paperbacks. They're like the nice floppy paperbacks. We are again following Royce and Hadrian, who are buddies that are thieves for hire. And in this one, I won't talk too much about the plot, but basically things are continuing as far as the larger political machinations that are going on now in this storyline. Arista is also playing a larger part. She is the princess that they meet in the first book. And they're kind of off on their own path. Like Arista is doing her thing, and then Royce and Hadrian are doing their thing, but it does all tie in together. What's going on with her versus what's going on with them. Like, it's all tying in together, but in this book, they are definitely on separate little adventures, journeys, quests, if you will. Still love Royce and Hadrian, and I love Arista as well. I love her kind of go-get-em attitude. Like, she's always a woman of action, and I really like that about her. I love that we are seeing more and more of the larger world and learning about certain things that I can't really gush about too much without spoiling stuff for the other series in this world. As always, I love Michael J. Sullivan's writing style. It's not necessarily overly flowery or metaphorical, which I can really like in a writing style in an authorial voice, but his is just a little bit more straightforward, to the point, but with very emotional lines that just shoot you straight in the heart. My only real qualm with this one, I guess, is that some of the pacing didn't really work for me. There was just a few and I think part of it is with individual little quests. Sometimes I don't love them, I guess. And I find that it's like, I like pirates as a concept and pirating as a concept, and it's like fun, and like the characters can be really fun, but also all the seafaring shit, I'm just like, I don't care about. They're coming on the starboard side and then they're gonna down the galleys, and like the terminology just loses my interest very quickly. I'm like, we're fighting on the sea. Okay, I get it. Like any book ever where there's seafaring battles happening with different ships and pirates, my eyes kind of glaze over a little bit. And there was a fair amount of the book where that was what was happening, and I was just kind of like, I'm not loving that. Again, I like the characters and the stuff they were learning, and I liked Royce and Hadrian and following them and what they were doing, but just kind of the larger little quest they were on wasn't my favorite. So yeah, just a little bit of pacing issues for me, where I wasn't thoroughly engaged and feeling like it was a real page turner. But I still really enjoyed this, despite those couple of pacing issues. I am very excited to get to Heir of Novron, the conclusion of this series, and I'm really hoping I will love it. I ended up giving this one 3.75 stars. So, yay. Really solid rating still. Next, I completed Kushiel's Chosen. Kushiel's Chosen. This took me like 20 days to finish. I started it in January. Same with Kushiel's Dart, where they both just take me a really long time. And I imagine the finale will as well. Because of just it's mostly just like all the politics and the scheming and just, the scheming, the sabotage, all of that stuff that's going on. It's a lot. I ended up making on Canva about 40% through or 30% through I was like, I'm so fucking confused with, there's so many different people, different nobles that are like important. And from the first book, which I didn't read that long ago, it was like a month or two ago. But even in that book, I was like, okay, you did that and you did that. But like, there's a lot of male nobles that are maybe involved in scheming, but maybe not. Maybe they're traitors, but maybe not, because they did that thing that was really weird and sketchy. But then this other guy did this other thing that could have been sketchy. And I just lose, like, who and he. So I went on Canva and I made fucking family trees for, I did, where is it? The Royalty of La Serenissima and Terre d'Ange. So I have, like, everybody here that I put together. And because there's glossaries in the beginning, but like I need the visual. I need like, okay, so that's how they're related. So I did that for them. For the nobles of La Serenissima, not the royalty, but just like the nobility. Nobles of Illyria, and then nobles of Terre d'Ange. And then I have notes. I have 2 pages of notes of like, okay, this person is a traitor and they did this and and then they ended up doing this. Like, just to have on hand while I was reading this book, because I was getting so confused. And let me tell you, this was very helpful. Very. Again, it's book 2 of a trilogy, so I can't get too much into the plot, but again, more political fantasy, political intrigue. There's lots of traveling in this one. Phaedra is following a lead regarding a mystery we were left with at the end of the first book regarding a major traitor to the realm that we know is a traitor, but now there's another mystery surrounding this individual, and Phaedra is, again, following that lead, trying to figure out what's going on. I love Phaedra and Jocelyn still, though I will say I was pretty annoyed with Jocelyn for a large portion of this book. I won't say why, spoilers. I'll just say self-torment. Just constant self-torment. You know how I feel about characters. Just like self-flagellation all the time. Like, okay, we get it. Again, because we have characters that are traveling around, we get to see a lot more of this world. And I genuinely enjoyed seeing these other cultures and these other places. Every time we got to a new place, I was very intrigued, and seeing that culture and how they do things there and whatever. It was really cool, and I loved that part of it. However, the traveling, oh my God. It was just like we were here, and then now we're here, and then we go over there, and then we're back to the other place, but then we gotta go over here now, and then we gotta go back over there. And can we go over there, please? No, we can't go over there, but we'll go to this other, like, just a lot of like bebopping around. And for me personally, I don't love travel stuff in my fantasy. Like, a little, obviously, like most fantasy has people traveling a bit, but it was just excessive for me in this. So occasionally that aspect of it dragged a little bit, where I was like, I wish we could cut down some of this and just kind of, you know, oh, now we're here. And they're traveling by sea once again. You know how I feel about lots of seafaring, where I just kind of gloss over, like, okay, there's a storm and we're doing shit for the storm and raising the masts or lowering the masts or doing shit with the I don't have a boat. I grew up on lakes with like pontoons and speedboats, but yeah, just all of this seafaring stuff just doesn't do it for me. So I wish we could have just teleported to all these places, you know, like in the book, like, oh, now we're here. Like, let's just teleport. Much happier with that. But the plot itself, like why we were going to all these places and what we were trying to accomplish, was engaging. So I never wanted to DNF it at all. I never even contemplated that. It just took me some time to get through, because there were just parts of it where I was like, okay, I'll read like a chapter maybe. And then other parts where I'm reading like 3 or 4 chapters at a time. It varied a lot. And I am definitely looking forward to the conclusion of this series and then continuing on with Jacqueline Carey's other series in this world. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And then a book I was putting off forever. I owned it though. I had pre-ordered it when it was released, which I think, was it 2021? I think it was supposed to be 2020, but it got pushed back. I'm pretty sure it was released in 2021. I was putting it off though because it is young adult, and I have just been about young adult in the last couple years, and I just really wanted to love it, and I just kept being like, am I in the right mood? Finally felt like I was in the right mood. It was right after I read Kushiel's Chosen, so it was kind of like, I think right now is like a prime time to read some young adult that won't be quite as intensive. The book in question is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. And yeah, I love this cover, first of all. It's just so pretty to me. Young adult, fantasy, African-inspired setting, world. This is a very misogynistic and patriarchal society where girls must be modest and pure and chaste and obey their men, whether that is their fathers or their husbands, have their husbands' children, raise those children, and basically serve no other purpose. And our main character, I think it's Deka, D-E-K-A at any rate, I would think it would be Deka, is about to go through her ritual of purity where they test these girls in the whole land. They test their blood to see if it runs red or gold. And if it runs gold, that means they are impure. And when Deka's blood does run gold, she ends up being given the chance to remain in her village where she is being tortured, or go with a strange woman to join an army and learn how to fight for the emperor in his special army with other girls like her. They're called Alaki or Alakai. I think in my head I was saying Alakai. And they are near immortal with kind of special gifts of, speed and strength, etc. I found the characters to be quite likable and enjoyable throughout, and I really enjoyed the main character's story arc and development. And I really liked the friendships that were built here and formed. Definitely a found family vibe, and there is a romantic interest, but the friendships seemed to take more priority than the romantic interest, which I quite enjoyed that as well. I did also enjoy the romantic interest though. I can definitely see and understand people feeling that it is too insta-lovey, but it didn't read that way to me because of things that I don't want to say to spoil. I thought the world was interesting. I enjoyed learning about the lore and their kind of gods and goddesses and that whole lore aspect of it, and the magic system as well. I thought it was cool. We have a super adorable animal companion as well, mythological creature that was so cute. I did feel that the pacing at the end was a bit off for me personally. It felt a bit rushed at the end. It kind of came across like we were aiming for a very epic, here comes the cavalry, oh my god, big huge reveal, like epic ending, but it didn't quite land for me. It just felt slightly flat. Not horribly flat, not ruin the whole book, ew, I hate this ending, but just kind of, oh, I see what you were trying to do there, just didn't feel that way for me. Also, some of the plot points toward the end, and honestly some of the dialogue, felt pretty different in tone from what it had been earlier in the book, which threw me off slightly. Again, it didn't ruin the book for me, didn't ruin the ending. I didn't hate it, but it just was a little, I noticed it being kind of like, oh, it's a little different, and I don't know that I love it. Particularly, we ended up having kind of like a mustache twirling villain giving his, expositional monologue, where I was like, oh, we're doing this? All right, I guess. From what the book was in the beginning, I just didn't think that it would end up there, I guess. Nothing horribly detrimental, nothing that made me no longer like the book, nor want to continue, because I do. I think it's going to be a trilogy. Book 2 is coming out this year, and I definitely plan to pick it up and read it, because I am very curious about what's going on in this world. I ended up giving this one 3.75 stars as well. there we go. Those are some of the books I've read recently. I have been reading just so very slowly. I only finished 3 books in January, and I DNF'd one that I kind of barely started. And so far, I have only finished 2 books in February, and it's the 20th. And I'm not mad at it. Like, I don't know, it doesn't... I feel like when I first joined BookTube the first couple years, I definitely... I just was so, I'm reading all the things and doing all the stuff, and I was doing all the readathons and all the buddy reads and whatnot. And in recent years, as I've talked about, I'm just very, I don't know, anti-obligation reading. And yeah, I'm just not a super, super fast reader. I'm fine with it. I don't know. I just want to read the stuff I want to read. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.